Um, well, moving forward, I'm going to officially call a meeting to order. Just doing attendance. There's myself, Bob Dwyer, the chair. Brian McCarter is here. John Frank is here, and Jed Johnson. And our sponsor, Anne Marie Sarunian from the Select Board, is here. Absent today is our clerk, Wendy Howland, who's absent because of family health issues. With that, we do have a quorum, so I'm going to go ahead and proceed. Because of the issue, Wendy was not able to complete the minutes, so that's going to have to be review of those will have to be delayed to a later meeting. Anne Marie, is there any public correspondence?
It'll be covered under 4D.
Okay, very good. Okay, we'll start again with BEAD and GAP funding. The first element is the draft letter that we sent to the Select Board that covered a number of issues. Just for anybody who was not able to see it, the Select Board did vote to send a letter specifically focused on the delay or the lack of delivery on time of the new equipment for Bourne Community TV. This was covered on Tuesday night, the 8th.
So, Bob, just a quick interruption, Bob. Isn't that a different letter? Wasn't this letter the one we were going to send to MBI about a Comcast meeting?
That's further down. Yeah, that's another letter. Okay, remember we had two letters. One was
yeah. So I thought 4G was the one about Comcast cable and the issues with the contract.
They only discussed at the Select Board the cable access piece and none of the others.
4A1, it was addressed at Tuesday's night meeting. Yes, Jed.
The letter the one that we're going to send to Mass Broadband?
No. 4A1 is the one that we're sending specifically to Comcast for the violation of the contract.
Oh, so what's 4G?
4G is the other letter.
That's the letter with the
4G is the one about the cable TV.
Right, and the service problems and having
4A is about BEAD.
No.
What I'm saying is,
I see what you're saying, Jed. Oh, yeah.
What
we have it flip-flopped.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I stated that very badly. The letter that was sent to Comcast only dealt with cable TV under item G below, and there was not a discussion of the letter containing all of the other issues that we wanted to deal with Comcast. So I'm from Anne Marie. Correct me if I'm wrong. It appears that is on the agenda for a future meeting for the 15th. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Both of the letters, right? I just couldn't.
Any letter that we sent addressing the BEAD and GAP is being discussed on the 15th.
Okay. In terms of any other issues with BEAD and GAP funding, I'm not aware of anything else that has come up in the 3 weeks since we've met.
We did get this email from Brian with the enclosure showing BEAD round one sub-grantee selection initial overview. And I'm trying to figure out what all of this precisely means. And Brian, maybe you can explain it a little bit better.
So because they haven't announced winners for BEAD round one, grant applications themselves are not something that's requestable under the public records law. And so we've run across that before. So I specifically worded a request basically for everything that is releasable now, minus the applications which are not. And so these are the documents that I jingled out of MBI. Partially due to a press release when they were saying that 50% of the BEAD locations have been bid on in Massachusetts. So I said, okay, well, show me what you send to the press, what documents you have to support that, what summary level stuff. And so they released a one document that they sent to NTIA that basically set the range of money that they were going to be asking for.
Is this it here that I put up?
Yeah. So that one,
Okay.
that one is to NTIA, telling them who the bidders are, and the amounts, and the range of money. If they pick all the low bids, it's X amount, and if they pick all the high bids, it's X amount. And so it's kind of bracketing the problem for NTIA, saying who the bidders are, and getting a little bit of overview. It doesn't say who bid what, so that's I haven't requested that since it will likely result in a rejection. So I haven't requested that. Another document became available saying what towns were bid. So we know, yes or no, every town in the state. We do not know who got multiple bids. But for Bourne's purposes, we only signed one support letter. So even if someone else bid, their application is going to be defaulted because they don't have a, active unconditional support letter. So.
Right. The thing that confused me a little bit was Comcast is saying that they're talking about doing actual fiber in some towns, and I just didn't know if you knew anything more about that. That was news to me.
We would have to get a copy of these grants because they're saying they're using EPON. Other deployments of them doing fiber have varied in the state. Usually it's like a one-off, and usually for a very large customer. So no one really knows until we get the grant applications what kind of technology they're using. We've tried to ask them before, what are your plans for BEAD? And they said we're just going to meet all program requirements with any bid. So, it's a little confusing. We don't really know what they're bidding, with EPON there. Is it going to be 100 meg or something?
I had no idea. That's why I was there. Well, it was an enlightening piece of of documentation. I just wanted to see if there was anything more available because I was not aware that Comcast was providing any fiber to home, direct fiber to home at all. I haven't seen it yet. So maybe what they're referring to is going fiber to some very adjacent place close to the neighborhood and then going cable. I don't know.
It's hard to tell because they apparently put in two flavors. They put in their hybrid fiber coax that everyone's mostly familiar as just their coax service, and that comes in various tiers of speed. And then they have another bucket of EPON bids. So what it means, it's going to matter for someone who's not born. So we'll find out eventually in a release, but I have no clue because Comcast won't say, and I'm not going to ask for the applications because they'll just automatically get a rejection, and then we're less likely to get these minor summary documents that are releasable. So take the information gifts that we can get and work towards a productive relationship with MBI, as far as sharing information in a timely manner so municipalities can make informed choices.
Brian, just a little clarification on the information flow here. Would this information become public? Would the applications become public when MBI announces the awards? Or is it after they've gone through and signed the contract with NBI based on the application?
Typically, I can get them a month before the governor signed press release. I'm not sure the mechanism yet that triggers that. It's probably a board meeting. I don't know. Still trying to feel our way around the approval process there. But it's I was able to start getting apps in like a December when the announcement was like in late January, that kind of thing, or early February. So to be seen, but I can maybe ask what's the milestone where they become no longer embargo, just set the calendar. I don't know. We'll see.
Okay.
Still feeling out, and we're slowly getting MBI to release information more timely. So just keep at it slowly.
Okay, keep at it slowly, I guess, is the operant way to approach this. Okay. Anything further on BEAD or GAP right now? Okay, hearing nothing, let's move down to essentially regional approach to broadband. I was away and there was a tech council meeting that I did not attend. Brian, were you able to attend that?
I believe I was on the last tech council call.
Or did I miss that?
There should be another big one coming up soon because they're going to be discussing Dig Once and One Touch Make Ready. And it looks like it has a shot of passing this year if, all hands on deck.
Okay, that's further down on the agenda, so we can get talk about that there. Okay, I have not seen any communication from the Broadband Coalition. Brian, have you seen anything?
Nothing. It's been radio silence other than a few, random emails on the listserv.
Okay, liaison with other towns. Jed, anything from any of the other towns?
No, I mean, the only town that's really doing much of anything is Falmouth, and what they're doing is winding down the MLP.
Mm-hmm. I get occasional communications from Karen Olcutt, but they're not really relevant to our agenda. And the Wampanoag tribe, Brian, did the Wampanoag tribe go ahead and submit? Are they listed as a potential awardee? I didn't look closely at that last.
Yeah, John, you want to bring up the list? They're on there with an amount of money, which is interesting because we know they're basically only bidding the Verizon locations that Verizon defaulted. So that's a little more telling than some of the other ones. So if you see Mashpee Wampanoags are asking for $8 million. So I haven't compared that to the Verizon grant there, but that's a pretty big play, it looks like, out of them. So that should be interesting. And Open Cape asks for 1.3 million, which, if you stick a finger in the air and guesstimate, that's about what Bourne would need. We don't know if they bid any other towns. That would be like a solid guesstimate for all the CAIs. I haven't run the maps and whatnot, but I've only run the maps for the two on Bassett's. So potentially that's for all the CAIs, but we don't have their applications, so we don't know for sure if they are doing this in multiple rounds. So it depends on where their pricing is, what their costs are, how far they're stretching that.
Mm-hmm.
How did they figure out the PSA thing? I hadn't seen before. I think it stands for Project Service Area.
Correct.
What exactly makes that different from some of the other categories that are in there?
So the main thing to remember with a PSA is the smallest unit. Someone can bid if you are just going if for the BSLs. So if you're going after under and unserved, you had to get all of them within a PSA. And so a PSA is typically a town. I think there is some funkiness in some small towns where it's like 3 or 4 is one. But for our purposes, it had to be the whole town.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think there's more room around the CAIs. So, but if you were just going after, unserved and underserved BSLs, you had to do the whole town.
Okay, learn something every day here. I'm going to move on to the next item on the list. Apparent FWA offering from AT&T. I've just heard a kind of rumors or actual secondary reports from folks that they have seen advertising for broadband being offered by AT&T. Anecdotally, I heard in the past that Verizon and AT&T were going to kind of divide up the turf and serve the vineyard somehow. I don't know if it's that's going to be Wi-Fi or it's going to be FWA. We shall see.
What do you mean by if it's going to be Wi-Fi or
Not
FWA?
Wi-Fi. I'm sorry. It's going to be some kind of. I would guess it would be fiber. I didn't mean Wi-Fi. Fiber or FWA. I do not know the difference.
I've seen the ads, and I mean I've been an AT&T customer for like forever, and at least in my house right now, when we have lost the internet from Comcast, the cell service is not great. It's like, one or two bars, and you don't get a lot of speed. When we had a major power failure a few years ago, I think was it 2021? I think it was. Comcast battery went after 8 hours, and so we were depending on our phone, and getting to look at any website was very difficult. Normal phone conversations was fine. So I don't know. I mean, if they put up this new monopole out on Barlow's Landing Road, it might help. But I would say that AT&T is, for in-house use, unless you have an outside antenna, could be kind of marginal at the moment. I mean, for some people, it'd be fine. There are people I read all the time on the Bourne Facebook page that say, "Oh, I've got the T-Mobile and it's working great," and then we know of other people who had real problems with it. So it's a geographical issue. But I honestly can't see how AT&T could offer any really superior service to what's already out there for FWA, and it's not certainly for any kind of high-speed internet. It could be very challenging at this point.
It could well be that again, this is speculation that they're just trying to pick up whatever traffic that they can offer with extra capacity off their cell towers for people who are very near the cell towers and can live with what they're offering. I think the price they were offering was $35 a month, and I don't know what the speed was. I don't think it was. It was.
I thought you
speeding.
sent out the screenshot. It said like 50 meg. Nothing. It wasn't. It was pretty mediocre.
Yeah, it looked like it. That's right. It looked like it was just barely above DSL. So
I mean, basically they're just making a hotspot. Essentially,
right.
like when you make a hotspot with your phone, that's what you're doing. So if you're near a cell tower and you've got reasonable service, it can work. I wouldn't try having a family stream of movies on it while someone was gaming. I don't think it'll be possible. But for like normal email and internet searching, it's fine.
Yeah.
So.
You probably hear the analysts keep bragging about their profit margins in FWA, and they're just trying to get their piece. So everyone loves their profit margins on this stuff.
Well, again,
It's
we
cheap.
will see. We will see what some of these companies decide, to trot out for some of the more extreme, hard to reach places. It could well be. We shall see. Okay, I'm going to close that item. That takes care of regional approach to broadband, and I'm going to move on to DOR fiber funding. I think the deadline is already passed, or it's coming
Yeah.
up, and
Time to start planning for next year.
right. And again, when we were approached by Open Cape, and I would do that for anybody else, I just mentioned that this money was available, and that at least for the next few years, we're going to have the dispatch fire station at Monument Beach that isn't on the network at present, and that would be open for this DOR funding, which could be incorporated in potentially reaching other CAIs, potentially reaching some BSLs under BEAD. So that seed's been planted, and hopefully they follow up on it.
But by next year, the playing field's going to be different because, in theory, MBI will have a CAI only round, and every CAI will get covered. And so, Mo Beach Fire Station is on the CAI list, so it would get covered. So we'd just be filling in whatever other random parcels that are not a CAI that are town owned.
Okay, very good. The next item is digital equity plan and implementation. Anne Marie's got communication on this, and we know that the Falmouth plan is now out. Anne Marie, I'm turning it over to you.
Right. So with respects to that, I mean, Marlene is working on the application for the small $75,000 grant. That's due July 31st. The Cape Cod Commission is also assisting in that process. So we'll get that application wrapped up and then hopefully tackle another one after that. Chip away at implementation.
Okay. And that will include, among others, the extra service at the library.
I don't know the specifics. It does include, right, extending, the goal is to extend Wi-Fi at some of the municipalities, so.
Yeah. That, my personal view, that based on what I've heard, that will be another interim, just because we hope the library doesn't fall down in the meantime. Anyway,
Yeah,
that's a discussion for another meeting. Okay.
So I've got something. The monopole. Would that still fall under the agenda item for E? There's an update.
Oh,
on
I
the
skipped it.
monopole.
Okay.
No, that would fall under the one for F.
Yeah, that's further down.
Okay.
So at this point, Anne-Marie, just to be clear, there's nothing that's needed from this committee in terms of advice, assistance, or anything that you're aware of.
not at this time, but I'll keep asking.
Okay. We're here to serve. Next, the fiber service to the Barlow's Landing cell tower. That whole process is still in review in the Cape Cod Commission.
No, the application's been withdrawn.
Really?
And it withdrawn with the intent to refile. So it will start the process over again.
Really, it's still up on the website.
Yeah.
I talked to the commission like a week ago, trying to sort out where the fiber is running and how we might go about getting that information.
Okay.
Right.
But they did tell me how we could get it.
There were 11 letters from members of the Pocasset Golf Club, all asking to reject the application.
Okay, Brian.
I don't know what the change is going to be. They just told me it was being withdrawn and going to be resubmitted, and they left it at that.
Okay. Brian, you had a comment before that. You know how we could get information?
So they said the commission's purview was only going to be like regional items. There's like a list. And so they said if the town wants to know something like where the fiber service is going to run, we would have to add it to the local section of the permitting. And so their suggestion was our planning department could add a question as part of the approval process. So that'd be something we'd have to coordinate with planning to get that information if they don't just hand it over willingly.
Yeah, my understanding is this has not gone to planning at all yet, other than to remand it back to the commission. So until the commission finishes what it's going to do, we won't see them forwarding it to planning. That's my understanding. Is that correct, Anne-Marie?
Yeah, if they pulled the application and they're resubmitting, then it wouldn't hit planning until it goes through the process again. They'll have to go through the process again.
So this is the part that was interesting when I talked to the commission. They said they had been working with the town staff member in charge of planning throughout this process. So
right, but it hasn't gone to planning board yet. It's
okay.
going through the permitting process, right? It was attempting to go through the permitting process, but it hadn't been reviewed by the planning. It hadn't had a hearing yet, right? By the planning board.
Right.
No, it hadn't had a hearing yet, but it sounded like the person in town planning was a lot more involved than we had previously
I think so. Yeah.
That happens all the time, just to smooth, to make sure the handoff is smooth.
Yeah.
Right.
Brian, were those letters sent to the Cape Cod Commission, or where were
they're up on the website, John. I had sent out in an email a handful of them before the last meeting. Since the last meeting, there's been another handful, and they're almost cut and paste.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Anecdotally, I know one of the complainants there, and he was hand waving, but talking about lawsuits, et cetera, to stop it. So we shall see where that goes.
Am I incorrect in saying that that the monopole is lower than some of the existing light towers that are there?
It, I made a comment on another venue that at least viewed from the street or from the shopping center, etc. The light poles around the outside edge of the baseball field are far more visible, and the aspect ratio makes them look a lot higher than where the balloon was. And there are photos there to show that. So, who knows where this will go. There's still one abutter. I'm not sure if he's a physical abutter, but very close, who's start talking about EMF. Okay, EMF impacts. So I didn't see a comment from him in the record, but he may show up at a planning board hearing. So I will apprise Jennifer Copeland about that later on to be ready for that one. Or maybe it'll be in Tim Lydon. Okay, are we done with the discussion of this? Hearing no further comments, I'm going to move on to Comcast. And again, this particular label, Comcast Cable TV, in fact, should have gone further up above. But
so, Bob, are we going to skip the poll attachment review by state DPU? Is that off the agenda for today?
Is there anything going on? I'm sorry. Is there anything going on at all on it? Nothing that I can tell.
No.
Presumably, at some point there'll be a database that's put together that'll be public, and I would presume all of the companies would want access to it, and we probably can get access to it too. So that's all I know about it. I know that's been handled. The information's been handled through the select board and the administration, but I just haven't seen any traffic at all about that. I'm sorry, I skipped that one.
We still have other very high ticket items, and that was just information requests. So I guess we've had to triage accordingly.
Yeah. Again, apologies for skipping that. My eyes are still blurry from I haven't taken my hay fever medicine this morning. The pollen is killing me, and I'm surprised my voice has lasted this long. Again, going down the list, item G. Again, the title of that is somewhat of a misnomer. The original draft Comcast letter we sent for consideration by the select board included the discussion of the missing cable TV equipment for Bourne Community Television, as well as a number of other issues. Again, including a request for an annual meeting, etc. This letter, as far as I can tell from the future meetings part of the agenda and packet for the last select board meeting, has been moved to the 15th. So
nothing got discussed at the last meeting.
Nothing. I started to. I brought it up, and I tried to see if I can push the envelope. And MJ basically pointed out that the agenda item was very specifically a letter of non-compliance or something like that from the town attorney and the administration to Comcast about specifically about the missing BCTV equipment. Period. And I started to say right. This was be an opportunity to request them to come in for an annual meeting, and I was told that was not the agenda item. So
we're on town council. They drafted a letter that will address the 6.9D section of the contract that we have with the town, that the town has with Comcast, specific to that violation.
I see. Okay.
The
so
other
basically, yeah.
Right. So we're going to tackle that first, and hopefully within that communication, we then can, at a future date, have a report out once they're in compliance with their contract, and see what the next steps are.
Okay.
Trying to address all of it could send us down a litigation rabbit hole.
No, I totally get it. I mean, I'm all behind the idea of just focusing on getting that equipment.
Yes,
See if
yeah.
we can move them on that, because that's an obvious non-compliance.
It's exactly.
Mhm. It's a matter of, gee, how long will it take to negotiate over that? They may stall more for whatever reason,
Of course.
not known to us. And then until that's resolved, we may not be able to talk to them about the bigger issues of what is actually in their BEAD proposal,
Well, that's
not BEAD
right,
in their
but
GAP
that was
proposal.
right. But I thought that was separate, that we were
That
actually
is
going
a
to send
separate,
that
that is,
to Mass Broadband, not to Comcast.
right.
Yeah, that's to MBI because MBI is the cause of that
Right,
problem.
right. That was a letter to MBI, not a letter to Comcast, from my recollection anyway.
Okay, I thought we had some discussion of that in the letter, the recommendation to the select board about dealing with Comcast. But
So in that, my recollection of the letter to the select board was the additional items covered the issue with changing changing the packages and the regional sports network, and doing that outside of the 30 days. And then the other was the request for the annual review. There were also some discussions in there about customer service, answering phone calls.
mhm,
That's what I remember in that letter.
that was the main focus of it.
Right.
Yeah,
The annual review was the main thing we wanted to talk about. Was to get the
I guess
information
I've been
addressed
wanting to
the
talk
issue.
about the Bourne Community TV equipment, to be honest with you. That, like I said, it's obvious and it's material.
But we still, but the notice of violation on one issue is fine because it's irrefutably violated. So you could separately do an annual review without a violation. So we still have the right, and if the town's concerned about litigation over things that aren't as crystal clear, you could still hold an annual meeting. Invite the public, have all those things, and you don't have to levy specific violations to do so. To call multiple hearings, that's where you need multiple violation, notices going out. But just a straight annual review, don't need any.
So maybe
Any
that should be our
violation.
next recommendation, right? That after that, our next recommendation to the board is just the annual review. Request an annual review from Comcast.
And it'd be good because then we can informally, without cause, ask about all these things, and they can either respond or not. It's the choice is theirs. And then we have to generate a report after the annual review. So it's less legal risk, I guess, is a good way to put it for sure. Just call an annual review and ask our questions and see if we get answers.
Um,
Oh, okay.
so should I send I'll send that letter again, with our recommendations and say the letter has gone out specifically dealing with the non-compliance in that one section, but there's still enough cause and enough other material items left to discuss that we recommend that they call an annual review. If a separate letter went to Comcast saying they would like an annual review, that would perhaps facilitate or force them immediately to solve the problem called out in the first letter.
So I would simplify it rather than resending the letter. I would just request the select board just call an annual review, period.
Okay.
Yeah, it's cleaner, like a one sentence. SciTech
Yeah, and
recommends.
it's in the
that-
yeah. We can even reference the contract language. It says that the town can request one, and just say we request an annual review.
Okay, I will do that. Okay, I will send that out later today. I'll send it to all select board and to the administrator.
I would,
Saying,
Bob, if
Yeah.
I can interject, I would vote on that, authorizing the chair to send a letter. I would,
okay,
it's a good
Yeah,
idea to
that's
vote.
yeah, that's okay.
I move
We've already,
that the chair sends a letter to the select board requesting a annual review meeting with Comcast.
Second,
okay. Any further discussion on that? Okay, we'll go around and we'll vote. John,
Aye.
Jed,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Okay, the good point. We already have a letter on record requesting that they do that, but this is just we'll do it once again. Okay, I will get that out this afternoon. That'll go to all select board. I will copy everybody on the committee. Okay. The next item is a private citizen sent a notice of an open meeting apparent violation by the Mass Tech board on that, and the last communication we were that I was aware of is that the Mass Tech board asked for a delay in their 30-day response window on that, so that they could actually meet and discuss it. So that is in play as far as I know. Anybody ever have any other information on that or any questions? No. Okay. The next item, and this is now 3 weeks old, is just a review of the SciTech fiscal year 2024 annual report that goes to the town annual report, and it's available at the town meeting. Again, I thought we were going to be able to meet and vote on this after I drafted and Wendy revised it, but we canceled that meeting, and there was no way that I could put this forward for a vote. So this is water over the dam right now. I apologize for putting that on the back burner while we were writing and drafting and redrafting those other letters to go to the select board. But it's relatively brief. Wendy did a relatively nice job in editing it down. That was the request, short. Anybody have any comments on that? So when this comes up again next year, I will endeavor to get a draft done right away so I can get it on a meeting and we can vote on it, review it, etc. beforehand. And Wendy sent it around to all of you. Anybody have any questions on it? Okay. Again, apologies for not being able to get this to a committee vote before the deadline from the town. The next is One Touch Make Ready legislation. And also I put dig once in there too. And I think this should stay as a continuing agenda item. And Brian, why don't you go forward with the One Touch Make Ready legislation?
Yeah, so Kip Diggs, the representative from like Barnstable, Hyannis area. I don't know the district, but he's now the vice chair or assistant vice chair, Ways and Means. That's important because the last year's One Touch Make Ready bill got stuck in Ways and Means. So it got out of committee approved it, sent it to Ways and Means, and it just kind of got stuck there, with all the other things they had to do. So it's been restarted as a new bill, and it has both Dig Once and One Touch Make Ready in the same bill. So there's a lot of good things we want in there. I think we need to get some industry people to maybe jiggle around some of the wording, because I've already anticipated some issues. So we might need to formally comment on it. The town might want to comment and support it. There's a lot of good stuff here if we can get this passed, and there seems to be a lot of grassroots support for this from every other town we've talked to. So I don't know where we want to go from here, but I would like to support it and or help edit it so that it's a good legislation and speeds up deployment, since right now it's limiting the amount of competition the state has by basically it's who has good relationships with Verizon and can get Verizon to let them on the polls. They're basically the only people that can attach. So it makes new entrants that aren't already well embedded in the state have trouble. It's a repeated complaint from small ISPs and even big ISPs that getting on the polls or getting into conduit is their biggest complaints. Even Verizon has through the grapevines complained that they have trouble getting into conduit. So if this can be solved with legislation, that'd be cool. It's likely to face pushback from some of the big players that already have significant market interest because they already have a working relationship with the poll owners. So this is something that's going to need grassroots to push it over the finish line this time, and or towns coming out and emphatically supporting this.
Recommendations on how to proceed. Should we draft a letter for consideration by the select board that would go to whoever the sponsor is? Who does that go to, Brian? Send it to Diggs just as one of the sponsors of the bill?
Yeah, I bet let Diggs and his team figure out how to run that, because first it has to go through the House, and then we need a senator. And I'm not an expert on how legislation gets passed, but my understanding is it goes through the House, and then the Senate needs to have some kind of similar bill, and then they do a combined bill, and then it goes to, that gets voted on, and it goes to the governor. I would say Kip is the one to tell us how to get this over the finish line. We just say we support it, town supports it, or we support the concept and we want to see it. We want to do whatever we can to help him get this approved, since it could be very, very helpful.
So would this be a letter from the select board to our legislative delegation, to the Cape Cod Commission, to who else should it go to in support of this?
Probably send a copy to Senator Fernandez, since eventually it will have to be done by the Senate side. And he also probably to Giros, or however you pronounce his name.
Zaros, yes.
Yeah,
And Vieira.
and then it becomes bipartisan, because this is something with a pretty wide support. So this is not really political. This is just a headache everybody faces trying to get on these polls. Everyone would like it to be better. No one's really, gotten the mechanism in place to do so.
So basically the letter would go to Diggs from the select board, and it would include copies to all of our representatives, the three legislators who represent us.
Just a quick one, Bob. So Steve Axiaros is on the same committee.
Oh, okay.
That Diggs is the vice chair. So he would be probably a good target.
Right.
I'm looking at the
Yeah,
rest of the
getting
list. I don't
bipartisan
recognize
support
anybody
never
else on the
hurts.
list, but those two would be the targets I would suggest.
Okay, with copies to Vieira and Fernandez. Okay. Would somebody care to take a whack at drafting this? Brian, I hate to put more burden on you, but you are the most knowledgeable about this bill. Just put some words together, and we can get consider a draft letter for consideration by the select board at our next meeting. There's no urgency. These things sit in committee for ages, but at some point, I think the select board needs to get on board and say that they support this. It's particularly a salient issue for 14 towns on Cape Cod, all of whom are digging the streets up as they put in sewers. I spent 20 minutes.
I started to write up not fully. I was starting to make like a line by line, picking up the bill apart, and I was running it by one small ISP out in Western Mass. Was helping me flag some stuff that might be a problem later. Since no one really wants to publicly come out and support this because no one wants to wreck their relationship with the poll owners. So very quietly, I've been asking for input. Should probably finish that, and then I think the select board letter would be pretty short. We support. What's good about this legislation is quite short. It's actually pretty digestible if you read it. It's not. I think it's no more than like 5 pages. So it's actually quite digestible compared to some legislation where it's 100 and you don't know what you're agreeing to because it's so complicated. This was actually relatively straightforward. It had open access in there, dig once, one touch make ready. It wasn't very long. So yeah, maybe I could start poking away at putting that together. If by next week it would be a pretty short letter, but the full write-up's going to take some time.
One suggestion is, again, if there's a lot of technical details that we would have, i.e. you would have input to, the letter could say GR SciTech committee, the select board SciTech committee, has done a detailed review of this from the municipal government town point of view, and that's available for your use at any time. And then your detailed analysis could be something separate that we keep. We can circulate privately under the guise of that letter later on, of the select board letter. I don't know. That's just an idea.
I was thinking my breakdown. I was just going to give it to the tech council, and then Diggs can do whatever he wants with that. Here is the concerns, and up to you to do what you want with it. And it's actually remarkably straightforward when you read it. It's not overly jargon filled. I was pretty shocked how good it was in the first draft already. So it's worth a read. It's worth a quick read through.
Okay. And I'll leave it to you to be in contact with Michael White from the Tech Council to decide what they want to do with it or how they're going to proceed. It'd be useful if both our select board letter and something from the Tech Council and maybe some other towns went into the committee at the same time. There's a little gravitas there.
I'll see what I can do.
Okay.
I got limited capacity over the next week, so I'll see what I can.
Well, again, you can probably say what needs to be said from the select board in 5 sentences.
Yeah, we support open access, dig once, and one touch make ready.
Okay.
Have at it. It's
Okay.
I agree. I can go a little longer than that, but we support anything that improves competition and increases quality of service and decreases costs. So it's one of those. It's very rare you get get something that doesn't cost anything and only helps. So.
Okay. Very good. Any other comments on this legislation at all, or our comments on it? Okay, hearing none. That is the end of our agenda. For next meeting, given that the select board, at least right now, is going to discuss the letters to MBI, et cetera, on the 15th, I think we ought to meet on the 17th.
Yep.
Does anybody have any disagreement with that? Okay.
Are we planning to have anybody at the select board meeting on the 15th?
I'll be there.
Okay, good. I would like to be there. My wife is having surgery that day, so it's out for me. But if I'm home in time, I will try to watch on Zoom.
Okay. Appreciate that, John.
17th?
Yeah, so
yes.
I'm sharing an agenda, Bob.
Yeah.
So the changes I made, I added the minutes for today to be reviewed next week.
Right.
Do we need to continue to talk about AT&T?
No, for the time
Okay.
being, I don't see any real activity.
The DOR fiber funding, do we need to keep that on here?
Right now, no, I don't think so. I don't think there's any action we would possibly be able to take for this year's round of funding.
All right. So
One thing we should add, we're coming up on probably looking at the fellow for digital equity that last year we couldn't the American Connection Corps. We had trouble with that due to timing. So maybe we want to start now poking at that.
Brian, I have a question. At MBI, I saw some communication where they were looking at, I think would be company sponsored or company managed navigator funding.
That was last year. It was set up, so I don't really want to discuss it any further without an agenda item. But
Okay.
that was what was last year's setup was.
Okay.
All right, so I added the Connection Core. We keep the monopole on the list, yeah?
Yeah. Again, that's
Poll
going to pop.
attachment review.
We might keep that there just in case something comes in as a communication.
All right, and then we got the Comcast stuff, the open meeting law, non-compliance. Do we need to talk about the annual report anymore?
No.
Okay, and then I'll leave the one touch make ready.
Right. That will be on for the whole legislative session, probably.
Okay,
Probably now that we know it's not just one touch, it's one touch and dig once. Do we?
that's what it says here. Yeah, one touch and dig once.
Oh, sorry, I had it
Yeah.
on a tiny window and didn't see it.
I edit. All right,
Just an aside, we will be having a legislative meeting June 3rd where we invite the legislation to come and give us, a little talk, and they'll answer questions at our June 3rd meeting.
Okay. Very good. If you have any influence on the agenda of items to talk about, you might put this bill down. It'd be very useful to hear their comments on the bill.
well, especially Exiaro, since he's on the committee.
Right.
All
Yeah,
right,
so that's a question we can ask. I'm not sure, they come in and they sort of just give a little bit of talk about what's going on and
Well,
yeah.
when they get to the point of talking about wastewater implementation, that would be a perfect segue to say, oh, by the way, since half of the Cape will be dug up over the next 20 years, this one touch make ready would solve a lot of future problems if conduit were put down at the same time.
The biggest issue I flagged is I think they only put in 60-day notice before the ground opens, and I was already like, that's not enough time for people to get a crew together. So, maybe they need to bump that one up because, we know how hard it is to get labor on the Cape. A 2-month window is not enough time to get skilled labor booked.
okay. Any other additions, deletions from the agenda?
No, it looks good to me, Jed.
All right, I'll send it to Maria after the meeting.
Very good. And again, I will get this other. I'll send it as an email asking for the annual meeting off to the select board later today. Okay, here we are at before 10 o'clock. Amazingly, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Jed, John seconds. Okay, Brian,
Aye. John,
Aye.
Jed,
Aye.
and me, the chair, aye. And once the transcript of this, I'm sorry, once this goes to YouTube, if we can somehow generate a transcript of this and get it to Wendy, she can use that to start the process of putting minutes together for this, if that's possible. Okay, with that, we can end the recording and end the meeting. And then